From 6 to 6:30, we'll be presenting about the primary sensorial area of the classroom. And then from 6:30 on, Miss Pallin and Miss Kern will take over and talk about the lower elementary aspect of sensorial in their classroom. And then we'll also discuss forward a little bit. And then I'll be present for that part as well if you have any questions about forward exam. So, hi, Margaret. Welcome.
I'm in a meeting for an hour.
Okay, so what is the purpose of the sensorial area in the classroom? I do have to say it is very unique. It was probably one of the most recognizable parts of a Montessori classroom, I'd say, especially for primary. You know, people are very, it's common to, you know, the pink tower, the brown stairs, the red rods. These materials are very consistent through Montessori classrooms, whether you're in Paris, France, or somewhere in China. These sensorial materials are ever present in the Montessori classroom. Practical life can differ, but sensorial is pretty much the same all over. So anyway, what is the purpose of the sensorial area? So our 5 sensors are the foundation for our intelligence, right? We learn by touching, we learn by smelling, we learn by listening, we learn by tasting. So after the student has a good grasp of practical life and how to manipulate items in the classroom, they can sort of move on to sensorial. And that is so that they can concentrate on the sense of the material and not the coordination of movement. And we talk about coordination of movement in the practical life area. All right, so the purpose is to refine the senses. The material focuses on one quality, and that is so it deepens our understanding of that one quality. It aids, it's an aid to classification, general to more specific. And I think the biggest example of that is color tablets. We have color tablet box 1. It's just our primary colors, red, blue, and yellow. Then we move on to color box 2 when we're comfortable with color box 1. And that's our secondary colors. And then we move on to color box 3. Where we're grading colors, and that's sort of our tertiary, secondary, and tertiary for our color box 2. But again, it's very general to more specific. All right, it also leads to, the sensorial area leads to abstract thought. You know what? I'm sorry. Okay. What is the progress to abstract thought? First, it's the encounter with something. Second, it's that concrete experience we have with something. Third, it's recognizing that object in any context. Okay, so the characteristics specifically of the sensorial materials are isolation of quality. It is aesthetically pleasing. It can be manipulated by the child. It's mathematically correct. It has an indirect preparation for something. There's a control of error, which means it's self-correcting. So the teacher doesn't have to be there. They get that input from the material itself. And it's also limited in quality. So when we talk about...
Is that quantity, Lisa, or quality?
Quality. Oh, it should be quantity. Yeah, it's limited. So meaning we only have one. Yes. And now I can't find my notes. I was going to talk about isolation of quality a bit. There we go. So isolation of quality means that each material has only one quality as its focus, like color tablets, color. Brown stairs, thickness. What's another one, Lori?
Big and small, long and short.
There you go. Okay, so is purposeful. It helps the child to focus only on that one quality. And then we also have aesthetically pleasing, right? By offering materials that are well made and of high quality, they are pleasing for the child, right? That's part of our sort of seduction to get the children using the materials. Also, the possibility of manipulation or activity. Materials should be manipulated by the child. In the primary room, they are in that sensitive period for movement, and they love to manipulate those materials. They are mathematically correct. The materials are mathematically designed, which means everything is designed around math. It helps the child clarify the impression. It's also attractive. All materials are correct in their math representation. And a lot of our sensorial materials, it's groups of 5 or 10. It's indirect preparation for something like reading or writing. For example, we go left to right. The geometry cabinet, for example, helps them later with different shapes. Obviously, binomial cube, which we'll see in a bit, will prepare for algebraic equations. Of course, we don't say any of that when we're presenting it. We use very little language, but eventually we introduce that. And then again, I talked about that control of error as well. So let's see, for example, like with the knobless or the knobbed cylinders, there's a right? If we put it in the wrong hole and we have 9 and then we try to put that 10th one in and it's not correct, that's the control of error. So the materials give the feedback for that. Okay, Dundore, you can take over.
Okay, so I like to reminisce a little bit before we get started on sensorial, in that it is with the child for life. When they come into a Montessori classroom and they feel the rods, and I can only show you this much, so this is like what, the number 3 rod. But for them, the biggest rod is so big that they can't hold on to both ends of it. So they process it, they internalize it, and they remember it for life. When I first started teaching, I had a 21-year-old kid come in the room who had been a Montessori student, left when he was 5 years old. And he came in, and he was just enthralled with the red rods. He goes, I remember those. And he was like choked up. He's like, I couldn't even hold them when I was little. So I'm like, I can't even go to where a child can go with their mind on how important these materials are for them. And a lot of them are very, simple pattern making, and they encourage creativity, even though we don't say, knock your socks off and make, this into a train or whatever. So it's not a creative play, but it is very purposeful play. So I put in a whole bunch of links for you because I don't have the materials here to show you. So there's different presentations that you can watch. We'll share this out to the group, and you can watch presentations of kids doing it, of adults, giving presentations to it. And the pink tower is the one that I usually give when I do this. I like to give one presentation. So I think we'll watch what you be my timekeeper, Lisa, or we'll come back to it at the end.
Okay, we can kind of fly through the other. Well, I don't think we should. Well, we can do the pink
We're only
tower.
going to watch part of it.
Grammarly can help you write quickly and confidently, so you never have to slow down at work. Stay on top of email.
Today, I'm here to talk to you about the Pink Tower, the iconic, the infamous Pink Tower from Montessori. Now,
yes.
Yeah, because my Apple will present the sound better.
Okay.
All right. Wait, maybe I don't even have it up yet.
Sorry.
Yeah, the sound just doesn't work very good on.
I think we all have to be muted.
Yeah, that helps too.
So we will share out, we'll share the presentation with all teachers so they can put it on their Seesaw or their Google Classroom, and then you can click on those links and watch those videos if you so choose.
Oh no.
Do you want me to do it?
No, I got it. All right. Are you seeing my screen?
One of the great challenges in this world is knowing enough about a subject to think you're right, but not enough about the subject.
Today, I'm here to talk to you about the Pink Tower, the iconic, the infamous Pink Tower from
Dundore and Mute.
Now, a lot of people, pretty much everybody has heard of the Pink Tower, but do we really know the benefits and what goes behind this Pink Tower, what our children are learning when they use the Pink Tower? That's what I'm here to talk to you about. So this is a very simple activity. The blocks are laid out, the cubes are laid out for the child, and they build it into a tower. And when you look at it, you think, well, okay, my child could do that with Lego, my child could do that with, any kind of blocks. What's so special about this Pink Tower? What we're not seeing, when our child builds this, there is just a small difference between each of these cubes. And for that young child, this is presented at 2 years. For that young child to be able to tell the difference between each of these cubes, that's a big deal. It really trains their visual sense to be able to see the difference between each of these cubes and build it in a way that it looks all aligned. There are 10 cubes with this material. And through this, what Maria Montessori is trying to do is lay a foundation for math. Because when we learn math in Montessori, and pretty much everywhere, we learn it through the decimal system, which is a base 10 method. So indirectly, they're getting prepared for math. Of course, when they're learning about size, that's also a mathematical concept. Now, when these children are using this material, I'm going to take it down over here for you to see. They carry each of these cubes one by one from the shelf to the mat. They don't carry 3 or 4 at a time. They carry it one by one. In this way, there's a lot of gross motor development. And that two and a half year old, they want to move. They're looking for a lot of movement. They don't like to be seated in one place. So this helps them to get that, out of their system, to help them have that movement that they need. Now I want you to look at something, okay? When this child brings the largest cube, this is how they carry it. And there's a certain weight to it, and it's such a big cube. And finally, when they get to the smaller cubes, they're carrying it in the same way. Now it's become lighter. And now my fingers have to close in to hold this cube. So through their body, they're getting an understanding of size. It's not just visual, but it's a physical sense of size. Now, when they have these impressions, they're taking in these impressions through a sensory way, through touching. It imprints on their mind, and she calls that a muscular memory. It's creating a muscular memory for them. They're remembering about size through touching, through feeling, not just by looking at a 2D picture, all right? When they build, they are using their fingers. And these are the fingers that we use when we write. So they're becoming stronger. Their fingers are getting stronger so that when it's time for them to hold a pencil, they're not going to feel pain in their fingers. They're going to enjoy that process. It's going to be something fun to do. So these are some of the benefits that are clear here. Once the child has learned to build the tower vertically, we have so many different ways that we can, encourage them to use the material. This is to bring out their creativity and imagination. They can build it on the mat as a horizontal tower. They can use it zigzag. We can ask them to build different shapes of their own. We have base cards that they can match it to. All of these things are refining their visual sense, are developing their concentration. They have to be very well concentrated to be able to build this tower without it toppling. Sometimes they will experiment and try and do things in different ways, and that's great because that is them showing innovation, them showing their creativity and imagination. So we want to, encourage that and, maybe work with them. Sometimes they can combine it with other materials. Very often they use it with the broad stair, building it on top, building different kinds of towers, coming up with so many different ideas of their own. These are things that we as teachers, as parents, as Montessori guides, we should be encouraging. So this shows you the many benefits that lie behind the beautiful pink tower. Now you know why it's such a magnificent material, another one of Maria Montessori's beautiful creations. I look forward to seeing you next time on YouTube. Subscribe so that you don't miss any of our videos, and give me some love. Hit the like button if you have questions.
So she explained it so beautifully. Did you get what her passion was behind the pink tower? I was going to keep, well. So the pink tower, the brown stairs, the red rods, the cylinders, and the trinomial cube all are connected in a way. And it goes back to the knob cylinders because they are teaching about thickness, thinness, short. I mean, big, small, long, short. Then we have our geometric cabinet. And I put a link on this one that shows that you could do this at home if you're doing virtual learning at home. This is a place where you could click and sign up for an app. It's just the form, the visible shape or configuration of something. So in our packets, we sent home the triangles to help look at this form and make different shapes with just the triangles. Then Lisa was talking about the color boxes. And so I was just showing the 3 different color boxes, how they're graded, the red, yellow, blue. And we don't teach by saying this is blue, we introduce it, and it's not a whole bunch of verbal talking through the whole thing. And there's links for you to watch all those presentations also. And the color boxes, we always want to make sure that the kids know this is the only work that you cannot do with your eyes closed. So all the works before that, the pink tower, the brown stairs, the trinomial cube, all of that, I encourage them to show mastery by doing the work with their eyes closed.
And all of these works have extensions as well, like color tablet box 3. There's so many different things, right? They can grade them. They can after they grade them, they can take it out and see in the environment what colors they see in their own environment, matching those, bring them to the mat, or actually take the color tablet, see, get a violet and see what else is violet in the classroom. Sorry.
And then we have our visual and tactile, which is the geometric solids. And Montessori always, people always teach just like circle, square, triangle, the plane, how do I say that? The plane, help me, Melissa, just the plane of a surface. But she believed that the kids would understand a solid. So that's why we have the cylinder, the sphere, cube, square base, pyramid, and we teach those words to the kids. And
I have to say,
Go ahead. Liz.
Sorry, geometric solids was probably one of my favorites to expose the 3-year-olds to, just because I'm so sorry about my dog. It is this sensorial experience of passing around the sphere and what does it feel like, right? And you there are no edges. Then you sort of just pass it in the group, and then you go to the cube. Oh, wow, it has corners. Interesting, right? Pass that around. Then you pass the cone around. Oh, okay. It's just, it truly is a sensorial experience for the students. And then later we bring that language in. I remember having a conference with, I think it was a K3 student, and the daughter sort of went up to the shelf and said, "Oh yeah, Daddy, that's a cone. That's a square base pyramid. That's a triangular base pyramid." He was like, "What?" And it was like, we just expose it to them, and they pick that up. So sorry.
They love really big words, like parallelogram. It's like, what was on that last one, Lisa? Oh, that was it. And then now we have the tactile sense of touch, and we are rough, smooth, rough, rougher, roughest. So we teach those 3 levels. And then you go into the 3-period lesson, which is where Montessori decided that this is a good place to teach. This is rough. Show me rough. What is this? And the child says rough. So that's how we assess our students authentically in Montessori. Lisa, you left us. So the tablet, this is the first presentation. It's just rough and smooth, and then it grades rough and smooth, and then they separate it out. So this is the tablets, and it's another one. And then this is the next one, and we put these in the bags too for virtual learners. And you're just you're feeling the fabric and matching the fabric. And you, of course, you do it with your eyes closed. The thermic tactile sense of temperature. These are the bottles. I think the presentation is just glass bottles, and the child, you put hot water, warm water, cold water, and I don't know what the 4th one is. I can't remember. But then they match it with their eyes closed, trying to feel the hot matching them together. And then the thermic tablets is more of an abstract temperature, and you use your wrist to touch and feel the different. There's cork, there's metal, glass. I forget what all of them are, but they're matching it again with their eyes closed, because you can do any of these at home also. Just do a matching thing. And then my favorite, but not everybody's favorite, is the Barrick tablets, where you're weighing the little wooden squares. And I find it very useful when I go to the grocery store and I want a heavier bag of grapes. Then, instead of running to a scale, you can weigh them with your hand. So the kids really get to sense what heavy is. And it doesn't look like a piece of wood would be that heavy, but when you have your eyes closed and you're weighing the different wood, you will definitely see a difference.
And I think the students love these lessons too, because we use, a blindfold, and so they think it's so funny when the teacher puts on a blindfold and you're actually, gosh, which one is heavier? And, and then you take it off. Did I get it right? And, it's quite exciting.
Now they're using their face. They're covering their eyes up, so their mouth and eyes. Pretty funny. And then the sound cylinders. I made some here with Easter eggs. Oh no, don't break open them. Tape them shut. But you can put different sounds inside of and shake away. Make sure you cover the holes too. But it's the same thing.
And then they would match them. So you would do 2 eggs. Right. So you could put rice in one, you could put beans, you could leave one empty, right? You could put sand in one. So you have different, right.
So these are also smelling, because they have holes in them. There's coffee in one. So I have different smells in it too, which brings us, the smell is the last one. And then the gustatory, the video is super cute on this one. The tongue only has 3, 4 sweet, sour, bitter. and salty. And so you get out those different tastes and have the child taste. And we try to match it. The ones that are in the bottle are an eyedropper, and they drop it on their hand and lick it, which we're not really doing right now because we're watching our germs. And then the olfactory is the sense of smell. And it's the same thing as the sound, only we're matching smells. And that's the Montessori work. And then I had to just put these cute little baby feet in. The heel to toe walking is so important for equilibrium. We have a line in our room that they practice walking heel to toe. And without being able to do all of these senses that we've been working on, equilibrium and direction is brought together, so to speak, as the very end of the sensorial. And they're very much ready to move into math if they can walk heel to toe, eyes closed, of course. And then the ultimate mastery of your senses is being able to hold silence and playing the silence game. So there you go. Sensorial in 30 minutes.
Yay. Thank you, Ms. Dundore. Does anybody have any questions on sensorial in the primary classroom? Great. Well, thank you for showing us how I love the Easter egg thing. And yeah, and you know, you could do that as with smelling bottles, like you said, as well. If you just put, you know, little droppers of some vanilla in some vinegar and another one on like a cotton ball in those. Excellent.
Oh,
Great.
yeah.
Thank you.
There's cotton in here.
Wonderful. Okay, so now we have Miss Pallin and Miss Kern talking about this sensory experiences in the elementary classroom and a bit on forward. Thank you.
All right, everybody. Thank you so much for joining us. Family and community involvement is a big part of making our school as wonderful as it is. I love seeing so many friends from my class and from all of our classes in the school. Thank you to the primary families for joining and sticking around for the elementary portion. You'll get to hear what your child has coming up next. And I just see Nicholas, I see Jacob, I see some students too. So thanks for coming. At the end, we're going to have a raffle. So we hope you stick around until 7. We do plan on finishing up right at 7 on the dot. So without any further ado, let's get started. So by way of introduction, I'm Melissa Pallin, and I am one of the 4 elementary teachers at Goodland Montessori. And Diana Kern is going to be presenting. We're going to be presenting together, and she is one of our elementary teachers. So let's go into the next part. The first part we're going to be talking about is sensory experiences in the Montessori elementary classroom. And then Diana is going to talk about the forward exam. She's also one of our testing coordinators at our school. So she has a lot of expertise in that area. So I want to start off with a question. How does a child's sensory experiences affect his or her ability to comprehend abstract knowledge? So I want to give everybody 1 minute just to think about that. I'm going to open up the chat. I think the chat is open. And think about this question a little bit, because we're going to come back to it in about 10 minutes or so. Let's take just a little time to share if anybody would like to share related to this question, and then we'll have some more time when we come back to it. Kat, did you want to share what you wrote in the chat with us?
Sure.
Thank
I
you.
wrote the ability to imagine scenarios without experiencing them based on past experiences.
Thank you. Lisa, did you want to share a little bit about what you were thinking about exposure?
Sure. So I think it's really just about exposing children to everything we, possibly can. So later when we want them to abstract, to think abstractly, they can say, oh, I've had that experience before. So that's what I was talking about, exposure.
Thank you. Lori, did you want to say a little bit about internalized many concepts?
Well, they internalize what, like when you guys are doing number sense or numeration with them, they know exactly what 10 is without having to count on their fingers. So if they've gone through sensorial, they will know what 10 is. So when they come to, the mathematics of our Montessori math, you don't have to say, this is 10. 10 is your 10 fingers. Count your 10 fingers. They know it just because they've touched it so many different ways.
Thank you. Let's go into this Montessori quote. So I'm going to read it. What the hand does, the mind remembers. We're going to talk a little bit about some Montessori terms. So this might be a little small. I'm going to touch on 4 concepts that are part of any Montessori program. And then I'm going to show some examples of how this applies with our own children. So concrete to abstract. So Montessori education works from exposing children to the concepts concretely before moving to the abstract. And so that allows for a developmentally appropriate progression that allows the child to learn and master these concepts for themselves. So for example, before a child works with our seeing a number like 342 in the numeric form, like I would put in the chat right now, 342, they would have experienced that with our golden bead material to understand what that number is. So that number is composed of 300s, 4 10s, and 2 units, and they've seen that with the beads. They probably have counted that number when they've counted the chains. They have probably seen that number in lots of different ways, and so that number makes sense to them. Let's discuss a little bit about cosmic education. So the elementary years from ages 6 to 12, Maria Montessori called this form of education cosmic education. And she urged our Montessori educators to give children a vision of the entire universe, to help them discover how all of its parts are interconnected and interdependent, and to help them understand their place in society and the world. In Montessori schools, children in elementary programs learn about the universe through stories that integrate astronomy, chemistry, biology, geography, and history. So in that way, they have an understanding not just of isolated subjects, but the interconnectedness among all subject matter. The third concept is the didactic materials, and Lori Dundore talked a lot about the sensorial materials, which the child then sees again in the elementary classroom, but gets to explore them more abstractly, and we'll talk a little bit more about that. The idea is that the didactic material is a teaching material, but it's a material that teaches the child so the child can teach themselves. So the child is learning from direct hands-on experiences rather than just a teacher talking. And one last concept that we're going to talk about is the planes of development. And so we're going to talk about 2 planes real briefly. The birth to 6 is the first plane of development, and that is the plane of development that the child who is in the primary classroom, for example, with Lori Dundore, the environment in that classroom is prepared for the child to learn through their senses. And the next plane of development, which is the second plane of development, takes place from ages 6 to 12. And that is a period where the child is able to comprehend more abstract knowledge and able to reason more with all of those sensory experiences that they've gained in the primary classroom. So we're going to see some examples of concrete materials that help the child to then take that to the abstract level. So for example, we have the golden beads, and I'm going to show you some pictures on the next slide that help illustrate the decimal system. We have the sandpaper globe that illustrates land, water, form, and shape and size. And we have plants and animals in our classrooms and in our outdoor classrooms that are connected with our school. Actually, the elementary classroom includes the entire community, which is very unique to Montessori. So for example, right now, our students are engaged in pet research and animal research, and related to that, as well as their service learning project, they are getting connected with the Wisconsin Humane Society. And so in that way, the Wisconsin Humane Society is then just an extension of our classroom. And so they get to see how their knowledge applies to the knowledge in the community that it's shared. So here's some examples, and you can take a peek. These are some pictures from our classrooms. So you can see Gabby and DJ, they're gaining an understanding of the addition with the decimal system. So they have the little units, the 10 bars, the hundreds, and the thousands, and they're creating, they're doing their math problems with those materials to help understand them from concrete to abstract. Matthias is working with the movable alphabet, and this is a concrete example of that. With 26 letters, you can form thousands of words in the English language with just 26 letters. And the vowels are a certain color, the consonants are a certain color, and then whenever they're doing word building, when they move beyond the movable alphabet, students tend to remember the colors, and they tend to internalize that understanding of the vowels and the consonants. We went on a nature scavenger hunt last week, and students were getting an understanding of spring through their senses in the outdoors. We also have our science, so our chemistry experiments. Students do hands-on to understand all about atoms and molecules and combining and chemical reactions. And so we're going to pause this part. We're just with a little reflection. Again, I want you to think back to this question, and then Diana is going to be able to share about the forward exam. So just take about 30 seconds just to think back to this question. If you want to add any thoughts that you gained or gleaned, any insights from the presentation on the elementary sensory experiences, you can share those in the chat, or we can share with the group. Okay. Would anybody like to share anything that you gathered, any insights from the sensory in the elementary classroom? Lisa, did you want to share something? I noticed you typed something in the chat.
Just a general observation about, senses are very powerful, right? I was somewhere the other day and I passed somebody in the grocery store and it was like the certain cologne and it just brought me back to like high school. And I was like, I remember the person that wore that cologne, and so like all day I was like thinking about that certain smell. And music is the same, like auditory, right? You hear a certain tune or a certain song. Now it can bring you back to someplace very good. It can also bring you back to a bad memory as well. But I think that's the whole point of this sensorial experience, is that they're very powerful. And I love the golden bead, how you showed the picture of that. And that's another example of what Montessori is so hands-on. And again, that sensorial experience of picking up one unit and then picking up the 1,000 cube and seeing what a difference is, and how 1,000 is made up of 1,000 of these units. And again, a very sensorial experience in math. That's it.
Thank you. So I will finish with this quote. The child wants to do and see and learn for himself through his senses and not through the eyes of an adult. The child who accomplishes this becomes a full person. He is educated. Dr. Maria Montessori. And we will just take a peek. I'll share this presentation with everybody. We will jump right into Diana's portion.
Okay, Melissa, did you want to? Do you want me to share, or do you mind clicking?
I can click for you.
Okay, all right, you'll be the clicker.
And I have been putting everyone's names into this envelope for our raffle at the end. So, so I'm going to take a peek if anyone joined while I was presenting. So we will be all set for that.
Okay, so going back to the sensory, I just wanted to mention that since we are going to be talking about the forward exam, so the forward exam this year is going to be for third graders, okay? But I would love for all of you to stay on so that you can listen and you can have a little sense of what will happen later on in your child's academic years. So I just wanted to mention with the sensory, it also helps children when they get to take exams like the forward exam, for example, because children have been preparing, visualizing the materials, using the materials, manipulating them, and they also are able to visualize and become independent and solve problems by using these materials that they will later encounter when they take an exam. So I just wanted to mention those two correlations as well. So going into the forward exam this year, I just wanted to mention that Montessori programs are a preparation for life. And everything that we do, we take our time to really educate the children and make sure that they are well-rounded when they move on to the next level. So for example, from primary, as you've been hearing, over to lower elementary. And then this year, our third graders will be ending their lower elementary experience with us, and then they will be moving on to upper elementary. So at some point, children in their life, as they get older, they will need to take some type of standardized testing, right? When they choose what careers they want to go into, they will have to take a test if they want to become a doctor or a teacher or an architect. What are some other ones that I've heard in my classroom? A veterinarian, that's a popular one.
Lawyer.
A lawyer. So standardized testings do, it's in the classroom. We, as Montessori teachers, we prepare the children ahead of time. We go over a lot of information just to make sure that they are well prepared and they feel confident and comfortable going into testing day. Most children do benefit from practicing and preparing so that they do feel confident, like I said, when it's time for them to take the test. It also gives a child that experience that they need, moving on through the years. So starting at a younger age, like lower elementary, you will see, and actually in primary, they do take some tests as well. But in lower elementary, you're going to start seeing a few different tests that they have to take throughout the year. This year, so far, right now, we just know that they'll be taking the Forward exam. We believe in freedom and responsibility, and that's something that we do talk about a lot in the classroom. So meaning that the children get a lot of choices because they receive a lot of lessons throughout the day, throughout the week, and they have a lot of choices to make during their day. So taking a standardized test will help them understand those responsibilities that they have in the classroom, and as they move throughout their day, plan their day, they'll start thinking about some of those works that they need to go over or practice a little bit more so that they can become more comfortable with that skill. Also, experts and have done a lot of studies and experts that really do look at education have what did I have here? Oh, have really just looked at just testing overall, and they really believe that it helps and it matters because it does help schools with funding, but also determining the needs for the school. Okay, so that's another aspect of why it's important. So on the slide, I'm just going to go over, it says here, Forward exam, why practice and prepare. So we kind of went over that a little bit. So students can perform better with less anxiety. And there are going to be a couple of links that we will, and then we're not going to click on this one, but in the next, I have to see, Melissa, can you click on the next slide? Okay, not on this one, but there'll be one where you can click and practice. So there we go. For the math one, there are going to be some practice questions that we are going to just look through so that you can get familiarized with what's going to be on the test. Okay, so let's see. For math, I'm going to go down. So this is one of the links. This is the math one, and you will have that. Okay, so right here we have one question, and it says, oh, Melissa. Okay, Melissa put it on the little chat area for you. But this is an example of one of the questions that the children are going to encounter, that could possibly encounter. So we know that testing can look very different depending on the test that they're taking. So these are just some practice questions that you can go over with your child at home. We are also going to be working with them in the classroom and making sure that they have some tips and strategies that will help them solve some of these questions. The other thing that has been preparing them is the IXL. That's why we emphasize it a lot, making sure that they do go on IXL and do their language and their math portion. But here's an example. So what I want you to do, I want you to start thinking about how can you support your child at home? So what are some things that you can do at home? So for example, if you notice that your child cannot tell time yet, or they're working towards developing that skill, what do you think are some, sorry, my children just got home. My teenagers got home. Okay, so what are some skills that you think, how can you help them develop the skill of telling time? So what are some things that you can do at home? So I think the chat is opened right now. So why don't you go ahead and type in the chat area, like just an example of telling time. So what are some things you can do at home to help your child develop this skill? Okay, Lisa asking them what time it is. Okay, baking, good. Use the clock when we're cooking. So use the clock when we're cooking, very nice. Okay. So we have a clock in the house so we can stay on track with the schedule, setting timers. Good. Okay, I love these. Let's see, Nicole. we bought a clock to put by their classroom. And I'll just open this up so I can see it. Just gonna read a couple more. So we bought a clock to put by their classroom, and I asked them all day what time it is good, using the clock for timed activities. Very nice. Wear a watch, giving time limits for play. Yes, that is wonderful. Okay, and that's very important because in the classroom, they learn how to manage their time. That's a big part of Montessori, is them being able to independently manage their time and move from one activity to the next one. And sometimes they will get really engaged and focus in one thing, and it might take them all day because they're so excited and they want to work on that for a long time. But this is something that we practice in the classroom as well. And you've heard, my parents have heard me talk about their little work diary. So writing down, okay, what time did you start this lesson? Once you move on from that lesson, what time did you start the next lesson? And keeping a record of their lessons. So children in the classroom start using a dialogue clock to keep track of their lessons, which will help them prepare to become more independent in the future. So that's an example of a math question. You at home can go through those questions, and we'll show you some of the language. Okay, let's see here. Is that a language one, Melissa? No, that one, right? Or
And also, if by chance you don't have access to the links, you can just go on DPI website, click in forward in the search bar, and then hopefully that would bring you to some practice as well.
yeah, and if you don't have those, we'll email those links to you too. Okay, so right here, go back. Nope, you're ruining the surprise. Okay. Okay, so I'll go quick because I know we're running out of time. But you'll be able to practice at home with the language questions and the math questions and look through them. That's an example of the language questions that you will have to answer. So the children will get some passages that they will have to read, and then they'll have to answer some questions at the end that go with the passage. So we'll guide them before testing day and have them practice so that they can get used to doing that. And again, they've already been doing that, but we'll just go over it a little bit more during class time. Okay, so Melissa, the next slide was, let's see.
Do you want me to go? So everybody will have access to these practices. So Diana, do you want to talk about the breakdown? And then we're right there. We're
Okay.
right on time.
So I think the screen is not showing the breakdown though.
Okay.
Okay, there it is. Okay, so for the ELA portion, the language portion is going to be 70 minutes, and then for the math, it is 80 minutes. Okay, so we have some dates scheduled for students that are going to be in person, and we will be scheduling, well, we already have them scheduled, so they'll be taking the test with us in their environment. And we have 2 days set aside for that, and then some extra days just in case if we need some extra time. Okay, but if you have any questions about the testing, I'll be emailing you a little bit more. Melissa will be emailing you, and Marianne and Miss Danette. But if you have any questions, please reach out to us. Go over the questions and let us know, how we can assist. Okay. Okay, so it's time for the raffle, the time that everybody has been waiting for.
All right. It looks like Savannah wants to say hi to you.
Where's Savannah? Hi, Savannah. Oh, there you are.
All right, so let's start. We're going to raffle off some eggs filled with goodies, and then we are also going to raffle off some egg dyeing kits. So, I put everyone's name in here, and we get to do about 15. So, the first is Carmen, so our PTA president. So, Carmen, you can pick those up in the office on Friday or Monday, okay? The next is Stacy. I can try with last names. People who read my last name a lot of times say Pallin or Pallin, so I don't even want to go there, but I can give it a try. So I think we only have one Stacy here.
Shepherd,
Yep.
isn't it
Yes.
Pallin?
Yes, it's Pallin, but sometimes if someone reads it, you know, so so I don't want to goof up names, but we'll try this one. Tara White. We have Tisa Thompson. We have Joshua Dickerson. His dad, I think, is Jack. We have the Davidsons. We have the Philemons. We have, let's see, so Nicole, our other PTA champion. I'm not even going to try. I should know how to say your last name, but I'm just going to call you Nicole. Let's do Yvonne. And Emily Sweetman. And Lily, Leia's mom. And we have Ileana or Elena. I think I'm saying, I think Elena is the mom. Elena Mireles. We have Ashlyn's dad, Derek. Let's see, a few more here. Riley's mom, Margaret. Other PTA champion. Ooh, and we have Jazzy Summer Urban. And just a few more here. We have Erin, I think Casey's mom. And Amanda Holtman. 3 more, Christine Matkus. Paige. And I think Sirham. Am I saying that right? Sirham? Not. Might need a little help with this name. But that's it. So thank you so much, everybody, for joining us. If you have some questions, feel free to stick around. I know I told some of my students if you wanted to eat some pizza with us or if you brought some dinner, but we will wrap up there.
Bye, everyone. Have a great night.
Thank you.
Thank you, everybody. Thank you for joining us.